So welcome to Preparing for Work, a series that helps you in your transition between university and work. As you know, we've been talking to alumni of UCL to look at some of the themes that come out of preparing for work. And today, I'm really pleased to have Sophie Thomas here today. I'll pass it over to Sophie to introduce yourself.
Hi, so my name is Sophie Morris. I studied civil engineering at UCL and I did the MEng program with a year abroad that I spent in Hong Kong.
Thank you, Sophie. And can you tell me a bit about what you do currently?
Absolutely. I am currently in a role that's called Head of Customer Success. So I run the customer success department for a construction tech company. So I moved from the construction industry into the tech world 3 years ago.
And so you've obviously had quite a few, hired quite a few graduates over your time, being quite senior in the organisation. What would you say were the top three things that graduates you'd like to see in graduates coming into the organisation?
So hopefully this is still fresh and familiar to anyone watching this video. I did quite my fair share of group work in my degree. Mine were called scenario weeks in my course. They were week-long intensive projects, and I don't want to scare anyone, but life is basically an ongoing scenario week. So I think looking back, been very, very grateful for university giving me a chance to experience that in a controlled environment and understanding different people have different problematics, different life experience, and that we just have to find a way to get the project done. Probably the second big myth I'd like to debunk is probably that no one knows what they're doing. And that's the joy of work. It's just a bunch of people trying to figure it out every single day. And as a graduate, I would want to remind everyone that the company you work for is lucky to have you, and I'd encourage people to never forget that. There is a reason graduate programs exist and companies invest in graduates, is because you're constantly wanting a fresh set of eyes. It helps companies stay accurate and aligning with the latest knowledge of your industry you'll be working in. So always remember that they are lucky to have you.
That's such lovely advice. Thank you, Sophie, because that's exactly how I feel about it. So you spoke about no one knowing quite what they're doing, and I completely agree with you. That's what happens. You learn your role, you master it as you go. And one of the sort of great things about mastering your role is actually making mistakes. And there's no greater time of making your mistakes than early on in your career. So I wondered if you'd come across, having had, so many graduates in your team, graduates that have made mistakes, learned from them, and then sort of bounce back.
Mm-hmm. So would you like a specific example or in general?
Anything, yes, general or specific would be interesting. Thank you.
So yeah, I would say that in general, I would really advise, and it's very easy to say in hindsight, to not be afraid of getting it wrong and having the confidence to ask a lot of questions. As I said, because everyone is also trying to figure it out, it's always better to get advice, and even if you got advice and it turns out that you didn't get it quite right, it's not the end of the world.
Yes.
Depending on where you're working, but in my environment, it's very controlled. That's not a problem. And specifically, an example that for me I love seeing is when I see graduates feel comfortable speaking up, whether they have failed to finish something or they have realized that they have messed up. That day they come and see me and say, either I need more time or can you help me here? I'm not sure how to handle the next step. I'm like, that's amazing. It's like, yay. Whatever they bring to the table, I'm like, you've got this. The fact that you've come and asked for help means that we can figure it out together.
And that's such music to my ears, and I think it probably will be to people watching at home, because I think people generally feel a little bit nervous. They think, oh, I need to know this, like, why don't I know this? And having the environment to be able to come and speak to people. And I often say that line managers aren't mind readers, so nobody knows your work better than you. And obviously line managers have their own work to do generally. They don't just look after teams all day long. So it's trying to, you know, make people aware that there's an issue as early as possible as you can. So thank you, that's really helpful. And so what advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with work?
As in struggling to do a good job, or
struggling to do a good job, or struggling with pieces of work perhaps?
Definitely, I think setting expectations is a really, really good idea. So both for yourself and your line manager, I think having that conversation around what is expected, what is the desired outcome, what they hope, why have they asked you to do something. Obviously they probably want something out of it, and sometimes line managers need help as well. I think it's a learning curve for them. Like often they probably hadn't planned to train graduates. So, and sometimes without meaning to, they might break down a task that because they think it's too big in one go and ask you to do one specific item and doesn't make sense to you. So if you go back to them saying, right, can we come together? What are you hoping to achieve here? And just really break it down into, if it's too big of a step, let's break it down. Do we know what next step to take? And setting that expectation together and just saying, you know, if I can start a draft, can I show you if it's going in the right direction? Just try and see earlier on if the work's going in the right direction. And that little and often usually helps build a much better working relationship. And it's just investing time up front so that in the future, when someone asks you to do something, you're like, okay, we did this before, I get it now. I've got a bit more confidence in it.
And it makes so much sense, doesn't it? But I think people are a little bit sort of reticent about doing this sort of thing because they think it reflects badly on them. So it's just really nice to hear an actual manager say that, and senior managers say that too. And so you mentioned sort of, you know, a long time ago, I think when we first spoke about, you know, influencers, you know, people in your life that can really, as in your working life, who can really have a bearing on kind of, you know, things that can happen to you, positive things. How do graduates find mentors and champions in an organization?
That's a very, very good question. So usually I would say most graduate programs have a very structured environment with you often have whether it's someone who's been a graduate before or heads of departments, you know, this is part of their job description. It is part of the business. You have an investment as a business. There are lots of people who should be involved in your development. So I would say that if you don't use those resources, the people that have been put in front of you, you're missing out on something that's been cut out for you, and someone's going to grab it. Then you know, it's happened to me. I'd see graduates and suddenly they were having coffees with all these different people in the company, and I was like, why is that happening? And it's because they were reaching out. They actually, you know, they're like, you know, that person, that mentor that we were assigned, well, yeah, I went and had a coffee with them and now they've introduced me to this person. And it's yeah, you need to put that effort in. So take people at face value. If you've been appointed, someone says, if you have any questions, reach out, then do it. Take people at face value. And from that, one person will know another person, one person will know another person. And don't be afraid to talk about your interests, what you're interested in, like what you're looking to get out something. Who knows that you might have this niche connection or spark with someone, and next thing you know, you'll be going to play a game of basketball. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's humans going to the office. Everyone has you know, things they enjoy doing. And don't be afraid of thinking outside the box, going for a walking meeting, let me buy you coffee. You know, there are many ways, and people want that escape as well. So my biggest one is everyone loves to talk about themselves. So, go up to someone and say, can I pick your brains, or do you have any advice for me on that? It's like, wow, you can't let it stop. So yeah, always don't be afraid to just sit someone down and ask them questions. I'll always be happy to help.
I think so too. That's certainly been in my experience, certainly at work as well. I mean, people are busy, but they make time, particularly for new people, graduates in particular, I find. So just thinking about that, and obviously when you start as a graduate, there's a lot to learn. And I'm just wondering what your biggest lesson has been in your career so far.
My biggest lesson, that's quite so in my very early one of my first ever summer placements as an engineering position, it was for rail design project management position. There was a bid for a project in Morocco, and I'm half French, I speak French. And very quickly I got given translation tasks to do, and I was too scared to say no because obviously no English and I know French. But it was taking me ages. I was using Google Translate to correct it because my brain doesn't connect. I can speak French, I can speak English. So my dad is a professional translator, so I would send him the documents and he would translate them, and they would just really press like, oh, this is amazing, just keep going, until I was like, I can't keep going with this. This is insane. It was keeping me up at night. So I went to the big boss and I said, I'm an engineer. I'm not a translator. I came here to do my placement as an engineer, and I don't want to be doing translation because it's a real job. People study that. They study translation, and there are people who do it much quicker, much better. And I said, and also I've been sending this to my dad. And I was like, I was so scared, and they were so impressed. They were like, literally their first thing was like, can we employ your dad? And absolutely, they nearly apologized. They're like, oh my God, we didn't really, there was no harm done. But they're like, absolutely, let's shift you into what you need to learn. And yes, to this day, my dad still gets the occasional request to translate documents and various things. But I think it really was very, very impressive to them that, because all they wanted, it wasn't they wanted me to do it, they just wanted to get it done.
Right.
And then it was just us deciding, okay, we might just need to allocate more resources to this because it was a bigger job than we realized, and we came to it together, and it was a win-win. I had a solution and we had a way forward. So it was by trying to take on too much on my own, there was a risk that it could have all collapsed. I would have stayed up all night and not got the translation done, not mentioned anything to anyone. And yes, I'm really glad. Well done to my past self for putting my hand up, saying no, enough is enough. I was happy to help, but now this has gone way beyond. Like, this is not what I've been employed to do, and I don't want to do this anymore.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. What a great story. Thank you. So I had a question because and it is quite relevant at the moment, I feel like. So there aren't that many women in STEM. So this is where the I guess the query comes from. But what advice would you give women, or indeed graduates generally, but particularly women, who are interested in entering your area of expertise?
So I genuinely do not know where my interest in concrete and cranes ever came from, but I was always excited every time I pass in front of a construction site. There's something about it that got me excited. So for me, I'm lucky that engineering, physics was my top. I just got physics.
Yes.
It just made sense to me. No one's ever stopped me thinking. I've got 3 sisters and 1 brother. All of my dad just completely, it was never a thing. Turns out it's in my blood. There were civil engineers and great grandfathers and whatever. For me, it was never an issue. The biggest issue for me was actually when I landed the job. I actually started, I did some site work and also worked in oil and gas and on construction sites. And for me, it was more the shock of the people I was working with. I was absolutely fine with it. I didn't even see that it would be an issue. And often people ask me like, oh, we should put women in training sessions to work in these industries. I'm like, no, we need to bring the people who work in the industry. We need to put a woman in front of them, and I want them to ask her all the questions. Just get it out of your system. What do you want to say? What do you want to talk about? So no one's kind of taken me up on that offer yet. And I've been in a lot of of training courses. The companies I'm in, but there are women groups, support groups, so that's amazing. It's obviously clear that companies take that very seriously. My graduate programs were 50-50 investment, but the key is about making sure people stay.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think for me it's a two-side story. One is, don't ever limit yourself. If you want to do something, just go ahead and just know that it might attract people who don't understand or who don't get it. So my other side of the story is to say, just give it a chance and give people an opportunity to get to know you, to get to understand, just get to know people, and don't hesitate to let them know when you don't feel right or something doesn't make sense. So for me, I've had people apologize for things they've said because they're like, oh, there's a lady in the room. I was like, no, go for it. And there's other bits where they don't know that someone called me princess on site, and I said, no, my name is Sophie. And they're like, okay, darling. I was like, okay, no, just in general, no names. And once you said that, after that, it was all good.
Right.
So it's just about setting that expectation. If anything happens, always go and speak to that person direct. You don't know what's going on in their life. They may have said a passing comment. Yeah, just always speak to that person first. And obviously, if there are any issues that are beyond professional, any issues, absolutely always go and speak to a trusted member of the company. But always, I would say my first advice is always have that conversation with that person, because you don't know, maybe it's education, maybe they didn't mean what they said, and we all have some biases. So I'd always start with aligning with the people on site.
Thank you. That's really, really good advice. And sort of, I guess my final question, starting sort of where we came from, thinking about the value of a graduate, and I think you sort of mentioned, you are very valuable. Remember your self-worth, I guess, and your sort of your value add. But what do you think the value of a graduate brings to an organisation?
So especially, I think the training I got from UCL was absolutely fantastic. As I said, not just in the group work, also the theory, very relevant. We met industry people. This was my second year. My first internship was through a career fair arranged by the university. So remembering that you were coming out with the latest, freshest information that's coming out. And personally, for me, I joined an industry where people had been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So our roles in these different companies evolve all the time. They're different. So I was born without the internet. Now there is the internet. So when I went to work, there were people who still couldn't use emails, whereas now graduates come in, they already have 4 different email accounts because they know that they put spam somewhere. And it's like, someone me the other day because I've only got that one personal email account. So it's a two-way learning curve, and the reason we invest in graduates is because they bring that freshness, that knowledge, and just another perspective. And companies need that, and it's a two-way street.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your advice today, and sharing your stories as well. It's really brought a lot of the themes that we've been talking about on film in various kind of episodes. So thank you so much, and thank you for your time, Sophie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure.